Capitol Hill is a cesspool of grotesque politicians who cheat on their wives, who lie to the American people, who are power hungry, not all, but too damn many. And you rip off this scab, even though this man has turned a new page, even though you're trying to paint him in a way that's actually worse than anything he's actually done. Boy, oh boy, Pete Hegseth demonstrated why he would be a fantastic Secretary of Defense. Really, he would be fantastic. You know, a friend of mine, who you would know, but I'm not going to tell you who it is, who's mostly a Democrat, but kind of independent. He writes me during the course of my radio show last night saying, look, I agree with you, all this character assassination stuff, but he's not experienced. 3.5 million people. And I thought to myself, let's see, who's run anything that has 3.5 million people? Nobody. The Department of Defense is the biggest bureaucracy on the face, well, I won't say the face of the earth, but certainly in the face of the United States. And let's say somebody ran a corporation with 100,000 people. Would that make them qualified? There was a Secretary of Defense by the name of McNamara. He was considered one of the brain trust, the young Turks in the auto industry, and he was hired by John Kennedy to be Secretary of Defense, and then later held on by LBJ. He was responsible in large part for the quagmire in Vietnam. Did that help? No, I don't think so. Then we had somebody like Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney never served in the military, but he was Secretary of Defense for a period of time. He actually did a pretty good job in that role. So I could go on and on and on. What President Trump is looking for is not somebody who's been at the Department of Defense, who would be the only person who's come close to running an agency with 3.5 million people. He wants somebody who's going to look after the warfighters, who's going to represent them, not all this woke stuff that comes from the politicized generals on the top down. When I heard that we have 44 four-star generals. In World War II, we had 7. It almost blew my mind. I couldn't believe it. I remember as a young guy, a 4-star general, wow, those were rare. I mean, really rare. 44, you might say, is rare. That's way too many. For what? What do we have 44 four-star generals for? And then when I heard that the Secretary of Defense has 3,000 civilian staffers, just for the Secretary of Defense. What? And the head of the Joint Chiefs, 20-some years ago, that he had about 150 or 200 staffers working directly for him, and now he has 1,000? I don't know. Is it making our military better? No. What are they in charge of? Belly dancers and other woke stuff and so on? It's so ridiculous. It's become so top-heavy. And I speak as somebody who supports the military, always has, and my family has been in the military. So there's Pete Hegseth, who wants to reform it. They want to destroy Pete because he wants to reform it. They want to destroy him because he doesn't buy all the lies, top-down politics, and so forth and so on. Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia, who likes to come across as sort of a good old guy, nice guy, kind of center-left. He's a left-wing kook. He's always been a left-wing kook. Remember, he was Hillary Clinton's running mate, and he is a left-wing kook. And I guess they chose him, among others, but him in particular, to be the hitman, Schumer's lapdog. And they got into stuff that was so outrageous. And I want to play some of this for you because for many of you, you actually work for a living, you pay taxes, you weren't able to watch it. Well, this is what I do for a living, so I watched most of this. So let's take a look at Tim Kaine. He wants to know about the divorces. He wants any confidential documents from the divorces. If the wives, the ex-wives will release them, will he agree to? I mean, come on, man. Outrageous. And Senator Mullen effectively answers him later, and we'll get to that. All right, Senator Tim Kaine, go.
Thank you, Mr. Hegseth. I'm looking forward to this opportunity to talk. I want to return to the
By the way, it looks like he had a tough night. It looks like he just woke up from a drunken stupor. But anyway, go ahead.
You referenced a minute ago that occurred in Monterey, California in October 2017. At that time, you were still married to your second wife, correct?
I believe so.
And you had just fathered a child by a woman who would later become your third wife, correct?
See right here, what is this all about? The party of Chappaquiddick, the party of Joe Biden, Tara Reade, the party of Joe Biden sniffing the hair of little girls and rubbing their shoulders, the party of Bill Clinton, a serial molester. I mean, come on, are you serious? Go ahead.
Senator, I was falsely charged, fully investigated and completely cleared.
So you think you are completely cleared because you committed no crime. That's your definition of cleared? You had just fathered a child 2 months before by a woman that was not your wife. I am shocked that you would stand here and say you're completely cleared. Can you so casually cheat on a second wife and cheat on the mother of a child that had been born?
How do you do this? I mean, seriously. Now, Hegseth has talked about and written about the fact that he found Christ later in life. He's got 7 children. He embraces every single one of them. None of us salute or celebrate somebody who's been through this or the imperfections of this sort of thing. So why do you go there? What is the point of going there other than to try and create some kind of drama, try and create something, anything that will stop him from becoming Secretary of Defense? And what's amazing about Hegseth, as you'll see as I continue the rest, he's cool as a cucumber. He doesn't let it rattle him. He just keeps plowing ahead. Go ahead.
2 months before, and you tell us you are completely cleared. How is that a complete clear?
Senator, her child's name is Gwendolyn Hope Hegseth, and she's a child of God, and she's 7 years old.
And she was, and you cheated on the mother of that child less than 2 months after that daughter was born, didn't you?
Those were false charges. Well, it was fully investigated, and I was completely cleared. And I am so grateful for the marriage I have to this amazing woman behind me.
You've admitted that you had sex at that hotel in October 2017. You said it was consensual, isn't that correct?
Anything?
You've admitted that it was consensual, and you were still married, and you just had a child by another woman.
Again,
how do you explain your judgment?
Completely false charges against me. You fully investigated, and I was completely clear.
You have admitted that you had sex while you were married to wife 2 after you just had fathered a child by wife 3. You've admitted that. Now, if it had been a sexual assault, that would be disqualifying to be Secretary of Defense, wouldn't it?
It was a false claim then and a false claim now.
If it had been a sexual assault.
Let me slow this down because it gets confusing. He was separated. They were going to go through a divorce, wife 2. He was going to get married to another woman, wife 3. So he wasn't cheating on anybody. I'm just being honest and explaining this. Wife 2 had just had a baby. So the way he puts it is, if you're cheating on wife 2, with whom you've had a baby, wife 3 sitting right behind him, by the way, he's got 7 children. The wife 2 baby was 7 years old. The one he referenced was sitting in the audience. And he said, they're all children of God. He said, I would not have conducted myself this way, but I'm trying to explain it wasn't exactly the way he's portraying it either. Go ahead.
That would be disqualifying to be Secretary of Defense, wouldn't it?
That was a false claim.
So you
talking about a hypothetical.
So you can't tell me whether someone who has committed a sexual assault is disqualified from being Secretary of Defense?
Senator, I know in my instance, and I'm talking about my instance only, it was a false claim.
But you acknowledge that you cheated on your wife and that you cheated on the woman by whom you had just fathered a child. You have admitted that.
I will allow your words to speak for themselves.
You're not retracting that today. That's good. I assume that in each of your weddings, you've pledged to be faithful to your wife. You've taken an oath to do that, haven't you?
Senator, as I've acknowledged.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm very square. I'm very straight. I've never done any of these things. I never will do any of these things. Honest to God, you're looking at somebody who's not an angel, but I'm not a devil either. I've never done drugs. Drink now and then a glass of wine because my wife insists on it, and that is it. I've never smoked a cigarette. Maybe I've had a cigar once or twice, and that was it because it was putrid to me. Again, I'm not a choir boy, but I think I'm cleaner than anybody that's sitting on that panel. And this disgusts me because people fall. They fall. People have things in their background that they don't want other people to know. And this process is intended for the Senate to make a determination if somebody's qualified that a president wants in a high position. This isn't the French Revolution, where they dragged people in front of this commission, I'll call it. They would question them about their private lives and so forth and so on. If they didn't like it, it was off with their heads. The guillotine was working constantly, for 10 years. Blood in the streets. That's not the purpose of this process. And so it's extremely troubling to me. And as I was watching this, I thought to myself, you bastards. Capitol Hill is a cesspool of grotesque politicians who cheat on their wives, who lie to the American people, who are power hungry, not all, but too damn many. And you rip off this scab, even though this man has turned a new page, even though you're trying to paint him in a way that's actually worse than anything he's actually done. And you think that you're going to get the American people to back you because of this, when we have all these problems in the military, and that is the abuse of the military, quite frankly, and what's going on all over the world? This is unbelievable to me.
For all this and much more, sign up for Levin TV.